The station called Apex Prime floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was the largest structure ever built by the Galactic Council. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived and worked there. For 10,000 years, it had served as neutral ground where the great powers of the galaxy met to discuss trade, war, and peace. Today, history was being made. A new species had been discovered. They called themselves humans. The Great Council Chamber was a circular room with seats rising up like steps in every direction. At the center was a round table made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Representatives from 12 major species sat around this table. Behind them, thousands of observers filled the rising seats, watching and waiting. Hai stood at the head of the table. He was a species that looked like giant insects standing on two legs. His body was covered in hard black shell, and his four arms folded across his chest. His compound eyes could see in every direction at once, and right now, they were all focused on the main entrance. "The humans are approaching," announced a guard near the door. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone wanted to see these strange new creatures. The doors opened. An ambassador walked in. She was smaller than most species in the room. Her skin was a light brown color, smooth and soft-looking. She had black hair pulled back from her face and dark eyes that moved calmly across the chamber, taking in everything. She wore simple gray clothes with no decorations except for a small blue symbol on her chest, the mark of Earth her. Behind her walked her delegation. There were 6 of them in total. 4 carried data tablets and recording devices, clearly assistants and advisors, but 2 of them walked differently. They moved on either side of the ambassador, their eyes never stopping, always watching. A man and a woman. The man was called. He was tall for a human with broad shoulders and short black hair. His face showed no expression at all. He walked without making any sound, each step perfectly balanced. The woman was called. She was shorter than but moved with the same quiet grace. Her eyes were sharp, and she seemed to notice everything, every guard, every exit, every potential threat. They were clearly guards. Every species understood the role, but something was wrong. A gelatinous being that communicated through color changes shifted to a confused purple. Through her translator, she asked the question everyone was thinking. Where are their weapons? It was true and carried nothing. No guns, no blades, no energy weapons. Their hands were empty. Their clothes had no hidden bulges that might suggest concealed arms. Hai leaned forward. His species had survived for millions of years by being careful, by noticing details, and this detail troubled him greatly. "Ambassador," he said, his voice translated into the human language through the devices in the room. "Welcome to Apex Prime. We are honored by your presence." Bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, Hai. Earth is grateful for this invitation." "Please sit," gestured to the empty seats prepared for the human delegation. "We have much to discuss." As the humans took their seats, whispers spread through the chamber. Translators worked overtime as dozens of species discussed what they were seeing. The delegation was the loudest. They were a species of tall reptiles with scaled skin and sharp claws. Their culture was built on warfare and strength. Commander, their leader, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His 2 personal guards stood behind him, each carrying ceremonial war axes that could cut through starship armor. "Look at them," hissed to his second in command. "They bring their young ones to a council meeting and call them guards. These humans are either stupid or mad." His second nodded. "Perhaps both. A species that cannot even protect its leaders will not last long in this galaxy." The delegation had a different view. Their kind survived through intelligence and manipulation, not strength. Elder, their representative, studied the humans with great interest. "Do not be so quick to judge," said, her body shifting to a thoughtful green. "Perhaps there is something we are not seeing." "What is there to see?" laughed. "Soft skin, no claws, no armor. They are prey animals who somehow learned to build starships. The formal discussions began. Trade routes, communication protocols, territorial boundaries, the normal business of introducing a new species to galactic civilization. Ambassador spoke clearly and directly. She asked intelligent questions. She made reasonable proposals. But no one was really paying attention to her words. Everyone was watching, and the two guards sat perfectly still. They did not fidget. They did not look bored. They simply watched, their eyes moving slowly across the room, tracking movements, nodding positions. A young guard stationed near the human delegation grew uncomfortable under his gaze. There was something in her eyes that made his instincts scream at him to run. He was a trained soldier. He had fought in 3 wars. But this small, soft-skinned creature made him feel like prey. He reported this to his captain later. The captain laughed and told him he was being foolish. During a break in negotiations, High approached Ambassador directly. Protocol demanded that he make polite conversation with new members of the galactic community. "Your world," he said, "Earth, tell me about it." Smiled. It was a simple expression, just the curving of lips, but it transformed her face. "Earth is beautiful, high, blue oceans, green forests. We have mountains that touch the clouds and deserts that stretch beyond sight." It sounds peaceful. Something flickered in his eyes. It can be, sometimes. Notice that it shifted slightly. Just a small movement, bringing him a few centimeters closer to the ambassador. The motion was so smooth, so natural that almost missed it. "Your guards," said, deciding to address the matter directly, "they carry no weapons." "That is correct. This concerns many in the council. We want to ensure your safety while you are here. Perhaps we could provide armed escorts." Shook her head. "That will not be necessary, High, and are more than capable of protecting our delegation." "But they have no weapons," repeated. "How can they protect you against threats? The galaxy is dangerous. There are species here who solve disputes with violence." Looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes were calm, but there was something deep within them, something old. "Hi," she said softly, "I understand your concern, but I assure you our guards are sufficient." "How can unarmed guards be sufficient?" Did not answer immediately. She glanced at who stood motionless beside her. Then she looked back at. "On Earth there is an old saying. The most dangerous weapon in any room is a human being. Everything else is just a tool." Did not understand. He marked it down as a strange human proverb, the kind of meaningless phrase that young species often repeated to make themselves feel important. He would remember those words later. He would remember them for the rest of his life. The negotiations continued. Trade agreements were proposed. Star maps were shared. The humans were polite, professional, and reasonable in all their dealings. And through it all, and sat in perfect stillness, watching everything with eyes that missed nothing. The council made their judgment. The humans were a minor species, soft, weak, harmless. They would be useful for simple trade, perhaps nothing more. No one noticed the way his fingers sometimes twitched, moving through patterns that had been perfected over centuries. No one saw how his breathing never changed, staying perfectly controlled even when conversations grew heated. No one understood that the two guards were not relaxed. They were ready. Ready for anything. The first day ended. The humans returned to their quarters. The council discussed them briefly before moving on to more important matters. Harmless was the final judgment. They were very wrong. 3 days had passed since the humans arrived at Apex Prime. The negotiations were going well, or so most believed. Trade agreements were being drafted. Communication channels were being established. Everything was proceeding normally. But Commander of the was not happy. There had been a dominant power in the galaxy for thousands of years. Their empire stretched across 40 star systems. Their warriors were feared everywhere. When they spoke, other species listened. When the demanded, other species obeyed. The humans did neither. Ambassador treated the delegation the same way she treated everyone else, with polite respect, nothing more. She did not bow lower to them. She did not offer special terms. She did not show fear. This made angry. They insult us with every word, he growled to his advisors in their private chamber. They act as if they are our equals. Perhaps they do not understand our strength, suggested one advisor. They are new to the galaxy. Then they must be taught, flexed his claws. Each one was as long as a human finger and sharp enough to cut through metal. Today, they will learn what they truly are. The morning session began like all the others. Representatives took their seats around the crystal table. Data was shared. Proposals were discussed. Then came the trade agreement. Ambassador presented Earth's terms. They were fair and balanced. Equal exchange of goods, shared access to trade routes, mutual respect for territorial boundaries. Commander listened with growing rage. Equal terms. The humans wanted equal terms, as if they deserved to stand beside the mighty. Unacceptable, declared, standing suddenly. His chair scraped against the floor with a harsh sound. The chamber grew quiet. Commander, I asked carefully, do you have concerns with the proposal? Concerns, laughed a harsh barking sound. I have more than concerns, I have outrage. He stepped forward, away from his seat, moving toward the center of the room. His two guards followed, their hands resting on their war axes. These humans come to our galaxy. They sit at our table, they breathe our air, and they dare to offer us equal terms. Remained seated, her expression did not change. The terms are fair, Commander. They benefit both our peoples. Fair, spat the word. You are prey species, look at you. Soft skin, no claws, no armor, you cannot even protect yourselves. You bring guards with no weapons. Are we supposed to respect this? Are we supposed to treat you as equals? The other delegations watched in uncomfortable silence. Many agreed with, though they would not say so openly. The humans did seem weak. Perhaps they needed to learn their place. Stood slowly. She was so small compared to. The top of her head barely reached his chest, but she looked up at him without any fear in her eyes. Commander, I understand that our appearance may seem strange to you. We are different from the species you have known, but I assure you, we are not prey. Not prey, stepped closer. His guards moved with him. Then what are you? We are human. Laughed again. Behind him his guards smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Human, a word that means nothing. You are meat. Soft, weak meat. He reached out and poked shoulder with one claw. Not hard enough to cut her, but hard enough to be an insult, a clear sign of disrespect. In culture, such contact was a challenge. It said, I do not fear you, you are nothing. The chamber held its breath. Moved. It was not a fast movement. He simply stepped forward, placing himself between, and his face remained calm. His hands stayed at his sides. Please do not touch the ambassador, he said quietly. Looked down at the human guard. Was tall for his kind, but still much smaller than a warrior. He carried no weapon. He wore no armor. Too, he looked like a child playing at being a soldier. Or what? Asked, amused. What will you do, little creature? I am asking politely, said. Please step back. The commander leaned down until his face was centimeters from us. His breath was hot and smelled of meat. Make me. For a long moment, nothing happened. The two stood facing each other, the giant scaled warrior and the small, soft human. Then felt something he had not felt in many years. Fear. He did not understand where it came from. Nothing had changed. The human had not moved, but suddenly felt like prey, like something with very sharp teeth was watching him from the darkness. He stepped back without meaning to. His guards noticed. Everyone noticed. The mighty commander had retreated from an unarmed human. Rage replaced the fear. Would not be humiliated. Not here, not by these creatures. You dare, he hissed, you dare to threaten me. I made no threat, said calmly. I asked you to step back, you did, thank you. The insult was clear, had obeyed a human's request like some common servant. Kill him, ordered. His guards moved instantly. They were trained warriors, veterans of 100 battles. Their war axes swung toward in perfect unison, one high, one low. The attacks were designed to be impossible to block. But was not there. He moved between the axes like water flowing around stones. One moment he was in their path. The next moment he was beside the first guard, his hand pressing against a spot on the warrior's neck. The guard collapsed. The second guard tried to turn, tried to bring his axe around for another strike. Was already there. No one had seen her move. She touched the guard's arm, then his chest, then his head. 3 light taps, almost gentle. The guard fell beside his companion. The whole thing had taken less than 2 seconds. Silence filled the chamber, absolute complete silence. And stood over the fallen guards. They were not breathing hard. They were not sweating. They looked exactly as they had before, calm, relaxed, ready. Commander stared at his guards. They were not dead. He could see them breathing, but they were completely unconscious. 2 of his best warriors defeated in an instant by creatures with no weapons. What did you do?" he demanded. "They will wake in a few minutes," said. "They will have headaches, nothing permanent." "That is not possible. You have no weapons. You." "Commander," Ambassador's voice cut through his confusion. She had not moved during the fight. She had not even looked worried. "I believe we should take a short break from negotiations. Perhaps some time to calm down would benefit everyone." Wanted to argue. He wanted to order his entire delegation to attack. But he looked at and standing there with their empty hands, and something stopped him. That fear again, that deep ancient fear. He turned and walked out of the chamber without another word. His guards were carried out by other warriors, still unconscious. Hai watched them go. Then he turned to the human delegation. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "I think you need to explain what just happened." Smiled. It was a small smile, almost sad. "Of course, Hai, but perhaps we should wait until everyone has had time to review the security recordings. I believe they will answer many questions." Nodded slowly. He looked at and really looked at them for the first time. They looked back at him with eyes that held depths he could not understand. "What are you?" he whispered. Answered, "We are human, Hai, nothing more." But knew now that this was not entirely true. Humans were something more, something the galaxy had never seen before. Something dangerous. The session ended. The delegations returned to their quarters, but no one forgot what they had seen. 2 unarmed humans had defeated 2 of the finest warriors in seconds, without weapons, without effort, without even raising their heartbeats. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. And this was only the beginning. The security recordings spread through Apex Prime like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every delegation had seen what happened in the council chamber. Within a day, copies were being transmitted to 100 different worlds. 2 unarmed humans, 2 elite warriors with war axes, the fight lasting less than 2 heartbeats. No one could explain it. The council called an emergency session, not for negotiations this time but for investigation. They needed answers. Hai stood before the crystal table, the recording playing on holographic displays all around the chamber. The scene repeated over and over, the guards attacking and moving, the guards falling. "We have analyzed this recording 17 times, announced. "Our best military experts have studied every frame. They cannot explain what they are seeing." Commander was not present. He had locked himself in his quarters, refusing to speak to anyone. The humiliation was too great. Elder of the floated forward, her gelatinous body shifting to curious blue. Perhaps the ambassador would be willing to explain. We mean no disrespect. We simply wish to understand. All eyes turned to Ambassador. She sat in her usual seat with an on either side. Her face was calm, showing neither pride nor shame. "Of course," she said. "I understand your confusion. I will try to explain, though I am not sure you will believe me." She stood and walked to the center of the room, where the holographic display showed and in frozen motion, their hands reaching toward the guards. "On Earth," began, "we have something called martial arts. These are systems of combat that humans have developed over thousands of years. Different cultures created different styles. Each one was refined through countless generations, tested in wars and personal conflicts, improved and perfected until they became something remarkable." "Combat systems," General of the asked. "All species have combat training. This does not explain what we witnessed." "With respect, General, your combat training is based on your natural abilities. You have strong shells, sharp claws, venomous bites. Your fighting styles use these gifts." Paused. "Humans have none of these things. We have soft skin that cuts easily. We have no claws, no venom, no natural armor. We are not particularly fast or strong compared to many species." "Then how?" demanded another. "Because we had to find another way." His voice was quiet but clear. "Our world was not kind to us. We were surrounded by predators with bigger teeth and sharper claws. We should have died out millions of years ago, but we survived. We learned." She gestured toward, "May I demonstrate something?" Hesitated, then nodded. "Please proceed." Turned to face the chamber. "I need a volunteer, someone strong, someone confident in their physical abilities." For a moment, no one moved. Then a young warrior stepped forward. He was not as large as Commander, but he was still twice the size of any human. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. "I will volunteer," he said proudly. "I am not afraid of soft-skinned creatures." "Thank you," gestured for him to approach. "Please try to grab my arm, just grab it and hold on. That is all." The warrior smiled, showing his teeth. This would be easy. He reached out with one clawed hand, moving quickly to grab the small human's arm. His hand closed on empty air. Had moved. Not fast, not in a way that seemed fast, but somehow she was no longer where she had been. She stood just to the side, watching him with patient eyes. "Please try again," she said. The warrior tried again, and again, and again. Each time simply was not there. She moved like smoke, like water, like something that could not be touched. The warrior grew frustrated. He lunged at her with both arms, trying to grab her entire body, stepped to the side, touched his wrist gently, and suddenly he was spinning through the air. He landed hard on his back, staring up at the ceiling in shock. Had not thrown him. She had barely touched him. But somehow his own momentum had been turned against him. She offered him a hand to help him up. After a moment's hesitation, he took it. "How?" he asked quietly. "I am stronger than you, faster than you. How?" "You are stronger," agreed. "You are probably faster too, but strength and speed are not everything. Humans learn to use angles, leverage, momentum. We learn to redirect force instead of meeting it directly. We learn to find the weak points in any body, the joints, the nerves, the places where even the strongest armor has gaps." She turned to face the council. "What you saw in that recording was not magic. It was not technology. It was 10,000 years of human learning compressed into 2 seconds of motion." Silence filled the chamber. Stood and joined at the center of the room. "Perhaps a more detailed demonstration would help," he said, "with the council's permission." Looked around at the other representatives. Most were too stunned to object. He nodded slowly. "General," said, addressing the military commander, "your species has natural armor, hard shell covering most of your body, very difficult to damage with standard weapons." "Yes." Nodded proudly. "Our shell can stop most projectiles and blades. It is why they have survived for so long." "May I show you something?" hesitated. After what had happened to the guards, he was not eager to test himself against a human, but his pride would not let him refuse in front of the entire council. "Very well," he said, stepping forward. Circled around him slowly, studying his body. "Your shell is indeed impressive. Strong, lightweight, excellent protection." He stopped behind, pointing at a spot where two plates of shell met. "But here, where the plates connect, there is a small gap, very small. You probably do not even think about it." Reached out and pressed two fingers against that spot. The pressure was light, barely more than a tap. His entire left side went numb. His left arm dropped uselessly. His left leg buckled. He would have fallen if it had not caught him. "The gap is too small for most weapons," explained as he helped steady himself. "But fingers are very precise, and behind that gap is a nerve cluster that controls the left side of your body." He pressed another spot, and feeling rushed back into his limbs. "Every species has such weaknesses," continued. "They have soft spots behind their jaw and under their arms. They have neural centers that can be disrupted with specific vibrations. Humans have spent centuries studying anatomy, our own and others. We learned where to strike, how hard, what effect each strike would have. Stepped forward now, and we learned to control the outcome. The guards in the council chamber will wake with headaches, nothing more. We chose not to kill them. We chose not to cripple them. We could have done either. We could have done both. Instead, we simply stopped them." The weight of her words hung in the air. Elder shifted to a worried gray. "You are saying that any human could do this? Any of you could defeat our warriors?" "Not any human," admitted, "and have trained their entire lives. They are masters of their art. But yes, many humans have some level of this training. Our soldiers, our security forces, even some civilians who study for personal development." "How many?" asked. "Millions," said simply. "Perhaps billions if you count basic training." The chamber erupted. Delegations shouted at each other. Fear and confusion filled the air like poison gas. Called for order, but it took several minutes before the noise died down. "Ambassador," he said finally, "why did you not tell us this before? Why did you hide this capability?" Looked at him with tired eyes. "We did not hide anything. You saw that they carried no weapons. You assumed this meant they were weak. We simply did not correct your assumption." "But why?" "Because humans do not want to be feared." His voice was soft but firm. "We have seen what fear does. It breeds hatred. It starts wars. We came here to find friends, not enemies. We hoped that we could show our peaceful intentions first and explain our capabilities later." She gestured at the chamber around her. "But events moved faster than we expected. Commander forced a confrontation and defended our delegation. Now you know the truth." "The truth," repeated. "And what is that truth, Ambassador?" Looked at him directly. "Humans are not prey, we never were. We are what happens when a prey species refuses to die. We are what happens when the weak learn to be strong. We are survivors." She paused. "And our guards arrive unarmed because they do not need weapons. Because humans, all humans, learned long ago that the most dangerous weapon in any room is not something you carry in your hand. It is something you carry in your mind, something you carry in your bones, something that cannot be taken away." The chamber was silent. Stared at the small human woman standing before him. For the first time in his long life, he understood what true strength looked like. And it terrified him. The council demanded answers. The demonstration in the chamber had only raised more questions. How could such a species exist? What had made them this way? Were they a threat? Elder of the was given the task of investigating. Her species was known for intelligence gathering and analysis. If anyone could uncover the truth about humanity, it was her. "I will need full access to their databases," told the council. "Their history, their biology, their planetary records, everything they are willing to share." Ambassador agreed without hesitation. "We have nothing to hide," she said. "Learn whatever you wish about us. We believe that understanding leads to friendship, not fear." Was surprised by this openness. Most species guarded their secrets carefully. The humans seemed almost eager to be studied. She soon learned why. The investigation began with Earth itself. Reviewed geological surveys, climate data, and biological records. What she found made her body shift through 3 shades of alarm. "This cannot be correct," she muttered to her assistant, a young named. "Run the analysis again." Ran it again. The results were the same. Earth was a death world. The term was used for planets so hostile that no intelligent life should be able to evolve there. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, atmosphere filled with a corrosive gas that humans called oxygen, and the life forms predators everywhere, sharks in the oceans, lions on the plains, venomous snakes, spiders, insects, microscopic organisms that could kill within days. They evolved here, asked in disbelief, on this planet. Apparently so, continued reviewing the data, and it gets worse. She pulled up historical records, wars, plagues, natural disasters. Humanity had faced extinction multiple times, ice ages that covered their planet in frozen death, volcanic eruptions that blocked out their sun, diseases that killed millions. Through it all, they survived. "Look at this," said, highlighting a particular section. "Something called persistence hunting. Early humans could not run faster than their prey. They could not overpower it, so they simply followed it. Followed it. For days sometimes. They would chase an animal at a slow pace, never letting it rest, never letting it recover. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion. The humans would catch up and kill it. Its body shifted to horrified purple. They ran their food to death, over days. Their bodies are designed for endurance," explained. "They can regulate their temperature through something called sweating. They can heal from injuries that would kill most species. They can function without sleep for extended periods. Their joints are flexible enough to move in almost any direction." She paused the display on an image of a human skeleton. "And look at this structure. Their hands. 5 flexible digits with opposable thumbs, perfect for gripping, manipulating, using tools. They could pick up a rock and throw it with enough force to crack a skull. They could make a branch into a spear. They turned everything around them into weapons." The investigation continued. Studied human military history next. What she found haunted her dreams for weeks afterward. Humans had been fighting each other since before they could write. Tribe against tribe, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. 2 massive global wars within a single century. Weapons that could destroy entire cities in a flash of light. And through all this fighting, they had developed their martial arts. Reviewed the records of these combat systems. There were hundreds of them. Each one was a lifetime of study. Each one had been tested in real combat, refined through actual bloodshed, passed down through generations of warriors. She learned, had trained for 25 years. He had mastered 3 different styles and combined them into his own personal method. He could kill with a single finger or incapacitate without leaving a mark. He had learned to control his own heartbeat, his breathing, his pain response. He could fight in complete darkness, using only sound and touch. Was even more impressive. She had trained since childhood. Her specialty was something called pressure points, specific spots on any body where a precise strike could cause unconsciousness, paralysis, or death. She had memorized the anatomy of over 40 different species. They prepared for us, realized. Before they even knew we existed, they were studying how to fight us. Not quite, corrected. They studied anatomy because that is how their medicine works. They learned where the weak points are so they could heal injuries and cure diseases. The combat applications came naturally from that knowledge. She leaned back, her body cycling through colors of concern. That is what makes them so dangerous. Everything they know about helping others can be turned into ways of hurting others. Their healers are their warriors. Their doctors are their killers. The final part of investigation focused on human psychology. This was perhaps the most disturbing section of all. Humans were social creatures. They formed strong bonds with family, friends, and community. They could feel empathy for others, even for other species. They cared about fairness, justice, and protecting the weak. But when those bonds were threatened, when their loved ones were in danger, something changed inside them. Found records of humans lifting incredible weights to save trapped children. Humans fighting off predators with their bare hands to protect family members. Humans continuing to fight after receiving wounds that should have been instantly fatal. They call it adrenaline, explained to the Council in her formal report. A chemical their bodies produce in times of stress. It makes them stronger, faster, more resistant to pain. It allows them to push far beyond their normal limits. For how long? Asked. Long enough, and there is something else. His body darkened. Humans have a psychological trait they call determination. When they decide to accomplish something, they do not stop. They will not surrender. They will not give up. They will keep fighting until they succeed or until they are physically incapable of continuing. She displayed a human quote on the holographic screen. It was from an ancient military leader named Sun. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That is their philosophy, said. They prefer peace. They genuinely want friendship and cooperation. But if peace fails, if they are forced into conflict, they will not stop until the conflict is over. They will sacrifice everything. They will endure any hardship. They will find weaknesses that no one else has ever seen. She looked around the chamber at the gathered representatives. The humans sent 2 guards to protect their ambassador. 2. Against an entire station full of armed warriors from a dozen different species, and they believed, correctly, that this was enough. The council sat in stunned silence. What do you recommend? Finally asked. His body shifted to a calm, thoughtful green. I recommend friendship high. I recommend treating them exactly as they asked to be treated, as equals, as partners, as potential allies. But they are dangerous, Commander's representative protested. Himself was still refusing to appear in public. Yes, they are, agreed. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, and that is exactly why we should be their friends. She turned to face the representative directly. Do you understand what we saw in that recording? They could have killed your warriors. They chose not to. They could have humiliated them further. They chose not to. They showed mercy, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to choose peace. Turned back to the full council. That is who the humans are. They are killers who choose kindness, predators who prefer peace. They have every reason to fear the galaxy, to see us all as threats, to strike first before we can strike at them. Instead, they sent an ambassador with a smile and an open hand. She paused, letting her words sink in. The only question now is how we respond. Do we accept their hand in friendship, or do we prove that their trust was misplaced? The council voted that afternoon. The results were nearly unanimous. Humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community as equals, full trade rights, full diplomatic recognition, full partnership in all matters. Only the abstained. And in the shadows, certain groups were already making other plans. Commander stood in darkness. The chamber was hidden deep within the section of Apex Prime, shielded from all sensors and recording devices. Around him stood representatives of the Crimson Pact, a secret alliance of species who believed that the galaxy should remain as it had always been. The council has gone mad, growled. They welcome these humans as equals. They ignore the threat they represent. The threat is precisely why we must act, said a cloaked figure. This was Elder, who had hidden her true beliefs from her own people. If we allow the humans to establish themselves, they will become too powerful to challenge. Then we eliminate them now, said, before they can spread. The council would investigate. They would trace it back to us. Not if we do it correctly, smiled, showing his teeth. We will frame another species. The humans will be dead and someone else will take the blame. The plan was simple. During a ceremonial dinner, assassins would strike the human delegation. 30 warriors, the finest killers from each member of the Crimson Pact. Blade masters, hunters, infiltrators, more than enough to handle 6 unarmed humans. Remember what we saw in the recordings, Elder warned. These creatures are not as helpless as they appear. 2 of them showed skill, admitted. The guards, but they cannot protect everyone, not against 30 attackers at once. The dinner was scheduled for 3 days later, a celebration of the new alliance between humanity and the Council. All the major delegations would attend. The perfect opportunity. Ambassador received the invitation with her usual grace. She accepted immediately, thanking the Council for their hospitality. We should be careful, said privately. This feels wrong. Nodded, she had sensed it too. They had been too quiet since their humiliation. Commander had not appeared in public, but his followers were everywhere, watching the humans with hateful eyes. What do you recommend? Thought carefully. We bring everyone to the dinner, the full delegation, and we prepare for the worst. The dining hall was decorated with lights and flowers from a dozen different worlds. Long tables held food suited for every species present. Music played softly in the background. Everything appeared peaceful and celebratory. Ambassador entered with her full staff, walked on her right, on her left. Behind them came in Myra. The 4 were listed as diplomatic assistants, a translator, a cultural advisor, an analyst, and a secretary. The other delegations barely looked at them. Assistants were not important, only and needed to be watched. This was exactly what the humans wanted them to think. The dinner proceeded normally. Speeches were made. Toasts were raised. Ambassador spoke beautifully about cooperation and mutual respect. The delegates applauded politely. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness filled the hall. The music stopped. Screams erupted from the other delegations as confusion spread. But the humans did not scream. They moved. In the darkness, 30 assassins descended on the human delegation. They came from above, dropping through hidden panels in the ceiling. They came from below, rising through false floors. They came from the sides, pushing through secret doors. They expected to find 6 helpless creatures, blind and panicking in the dark. They found something else entirely. The first wave of attackers, 6 warriors with poison-coated blades, never reached their targets, intercepted them like a shadow within shadows. His hands found throats, joints, pressure points. 6 bodies hit the floor in 3 seconds. The second wave came from behind. 4 hunters, their shells making them confident of their protection. Was there, her fingers finding the gaps between plates, pressing the nerve clusters that had demonstrated in the council chamber. They collapsed without understanding what had happened. But there were more, so many more. The translator was not just a translator. He had spent 15 years in a special forces unit before joining the diplomatic corps. He caught an infiltrator in mid-strike, redirected its momentum, and sent it crashing into 2 of its companions. The cultural advisor moved with the fluid grace of someone who had practiced martial arts since childhood. 3 attackers came at her together. 3 attackers went down in rapid succession, their weapons never touching her. Was quiet, was always quiet, but in the darkness his quietness became something different. He seemed to vanish between one moment and the next, appearing behind attackers, striking once, disappearing again. And Myra, sweet, smiling Myra, who always brought tea and organized schedules, Myra fought like a demon. Her style was brutal and efficient. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Every strike was designed to disable instantly and permanently. The assassins had expected 6 helpless victims. They found 6 killing machines. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When the emergency lights finally activated, the dining hall was frozen in shock. Representatives from every delegation stared at the scene before them. 30 assassins lay scattered across the floor. Some were unconscious. Some were groaning in pain. Some simply stared at nothing, their minds temporarily disconnected by pressure point strikes that would leave them confused for hours. Not one of them was dead. At the center of this destruction stood the human delegation. Ambassador had not moved from her seat. She held a glass of wine in one hand, completely calm. Around her, her staff stood in protective formation, not a scratch on any of them. Cracked his neck and returned to his seat. "The soup is getting cold, Ambassador." Sighed, she looked toward Hai, who stood frozen near the main table. "Hai," she said calmly, "I believe we will require new dinner arrangements, and perhaps a formal apology." Could not find words. He looked at the fallen assassins, then at the 6 humans who had defeated them, without weapons, in total darkness, in minutes. How, he finally managed. Answered, he was not even breathing hard. "Humans train for darkness. We developed methods of fighting when we cannot see. Sound, touch, air movement. There are many ways to know where an enemy is." "You knew," said, "you knew this attack was coming." Stood, "We suspected. They are not subtle in their hatred. Commander's absence from public view suggested he was planning something. We prepared accordingly." She gestured to her staff. "I told the council that our guards are sufficient. I did not mention that all of our diplomatic staff have similar training, and are our best, but in Myra are all capable defenders." Elder floated forward, her body shifting through colors of amazement and fear. 6 humans, against 30 trained assassins, and you did not kill any of them. "No," agreed, "we did not." "Why, they tried to murder you." His expression grew sad. "Because killing should always be the last resort. Because every life has value, even the lives of those who hate us. Because we came here to make friends, not corpses." She looked around the hall at the assembled delegates. "This is who we are. We can kill. We choose not to. We could conquer with violence. We prefer to win with kindness. Every human you see learned from childhood that true strength is not in destruction, it is in restraint." The assassins were carried away by council security. Investigation would reveal their connection to the Crimson Pact. Commander would be arrested. Elder would flee to unknown space. But that would come later. For now, the delegates simply stared at the 6 humans standing among the wreckage of an assassination attempt, without a drop of blood on their hands. Peaceful, merciful, terrifying. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.